Little DJ. Little DJ.
Whew. Second time in a day.
Yeah, for a rookie like you, that's tough. For an old wily veteran like me, it's what we call Thursday. It's going to be aggressive. It has to be. This show demands that it's aggressive.
Oh, I mean, the way that we started out this morning, this one's going to get off the rails aggressive, pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you want from me. You tell me to show up. You say, you give me this whole backstage thing about we're champions and we're fighting for freedom and, you know, the world needs us and without us, who will do it? It's the whole speech, the speech you give. And it gets you fired up.
Does anyone actually believe any of the things that Ryan says in this show?
If you do, you should read this.
Don't let the facts, please. By the way, if you'd like to call him on any of the BS for the next hour, we're going to be spitting some facts. Well, we're not going to let the facts, but 817-601-7031 if you want to give Ryan or I a piece of your mind, especially if you're from Ghana. If you're from Ghana and you have a question, if you have some comment, why don't you just call in? Hopefully we get the same. I called him a fan earlier today. That was a misnomer. The same individual or bot or what have you, probably sitting somewhere in like Shanghai if we're being honest, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe we'll get some interaction. Ryan,
maybe.
I know that earlier this week we talked a little bit about money. We talked about your distaste for profit, but we'll leave that aside for a second. Money, fiat currency. Is it a construct? Is it real? Is it fake? What's your take?
This is so much more complicated than we pretend to be. So I'm happy to concede on some level that it's a construct. However, with that being said, I do not know a single person in the world who would not take $100 million of construct. Okay. I don't know anyone who wouldn't take that. U.S. Benjamin Franklin's stacked in their house. So obviously it's more than just some Fugazi. And that's where I think we have to be careful. Is that it is something that we all agree to use. And because of that, it is a construct that we say, well, okay, you know, how do you back it? What value does it have? They printed at will, all these things. But as long as everyone agrees to use it, then it does have value in that regard. Does that make sense? Agree, disagree?
I know, I agree. Going back to something I said earlier today, where you're talking a little bit about the consumer confidence index and that's at a 17-month high. I think the coupling between those two things is interesting because, to your point, if there reaches a point, or if we reach a time where a critical mass of consumers have decided that the U.S. dollar is no longer as valuable as we think it is, or there's some of that conversation starts to sort of bleed into the liquidity and the investment side of the business, and there's a tangible downtick in confidence in the U.S. dollar. I think you could see a number of pretty aggressive fallouts from that in regard to commodity restriction or commodity price gouging. You could see businesses start to withhold inventory and sort of artificially play with the supply and demand curve. I think we've seen some of that already this year with lumber and some other commodities. You've seen some of that artificial pressure having some major impacts on price. And if you kind of follow that lead a little bit farther and you get into true consumer confidence downturn, I think that could quickly get out of hand, in the sense that there's no way to sort of get back on board here. There's no sort of easy way to unwind the liquidity that we put in the market. And so if you get to the point where consumers have organically started to have less confidence in the U.S. dollar and in our seat in the global market, I don't know if there's a pivot at that point. It's a little bit kind of too little, too late, right? Or did I just take us way off?
No. I see where you're heading. this is where I struggle to make the leap that you make. And so I'm not saying that the logical progression that you made is I can find fault in it. I just don't think that that's where it's going. Does that make sense?
So sort of given where we are, how would you sort of paint a similar trajectory of what I just said? But how do you think, where do you think it's going?
Well, it's easy. Okay, first thing, let me just ask this question: how many people, literally, people in the world right now, have enough money in crypto to exist off of some other a cryptocurrency, whether it's Doge, Bitcoin, insert any crypto in the world? How many people actually have enough money to go full crypto?
14,712.
That's way more than I would have ever thought. Maybe 14. I mean, seriously. I'm being serious. Like, do you think there's more than 1,000 people in the world that actually have enough to go full crypto?
1,000 people in the world? Absolutely, yes. I don't think that my number is probably all that far off. If you talk about the long-term holders, because you were talking about someone
Individuals, not companies. Individuals.
Right. Yeah,
okay,
but if you were an early adopter or early miner of Bitcoin and you held, you're probably liquid enough, and so
let's say 20,000. Let's round it up. Okay, that's not enough to get adoption. Like that's nowhere even near enough. That would struggle to get adoption in Hood County, and so the path that you're talking about for people to switch to off of the fiat dollar into some kind of crypto. The path, I don't see the path there. Right?
Oh, so to be very clear, no, the logic train did not end in adoption of crypto. That wasn't where the logic train ended. The logic train simply ends in a downtick in consumer confidence in the U.S. dollar. And what is the fallout of that? The answer to that is not pivot to crypto. But the answer to that is okay. So now, if the U.S. dollar is not the ubiquitous go-to for the strongest currency in the globe, what happens?
Gold, baby. Gold.
So that leads us into another conversation. So we've talked a little bit about, I think we've talked a number of times, sort of danced around the issue. We've certainly talked about gold on a couple of these podcasts before. I think we've even kind of tiptoed around the safe haven asset aspect of that. For those that are listening may not be aware, what a safe haven asset is an asset class that should be, by definition, protected from the downside of illiquidity in the market. It generally, you might make the case that it actually should act in counter to, if there is inflation, that gold is going to be more valuable. But a lot of times that story doesn't play out in real time. You don't see people transacting really at all with gold. You're not seeing somebody go buy a house with bricks of gold. And so, let me just ask you very brief. So I'll punt it to you here in a second. So after you're done with the commentary, the question is, do you look at gold as a safe haven asset in 2021, sort of looking into the future? Is that still the same asset class?
Here's where I think gold has changed, and I'm going to bring up your favorite commentator, Peter Schiff. A few years back, he came on Rogan's program, and Rogan was kind of giving him the business of gold. And Schiff pulls out a debit card. It's actually a gold card, but literally gold. And he talked about being able to transact now in gold on a debit card. And I don't know if gold is actually where things head or not, but that I do think there is something there that if more people knew that they could have a Visa or MasterCard, whatever it is, debit card that's backed by gold, and they could go anywhere in the world, the exchange rate problem would start to fix itself. People would just start transacting more in gold. I think that's I'm not a gold standard. Let's go back to the gold standard because the gold standard days guy. I'm not making that argument, but I do wonder if you can transact on gold via debit card, if we don't see more people push towards something like that, if there was a weakening in the dollar. That's kind of where I'm curious about, because listen, if you have to carry the gold around, there's no shot. But if you can transact via Bitcoin, via a debit card or Venmo or something like that, and the gold just never moves, it stays in the vault, I think there's possibility there for that. I mean, it's just like having your dollars in the bank. You're muted. You're muted.
I was typing away. Thank you for that twice.
Sorry.
I mean, in that scenario, though, aren't you depleting your stockpile of the thing that you think is the most valuable? And so, why would you be transacting in gold? If you're that in that environment, right?
Well, it's the same thing as you're transacting in dollars right now.
What is it?
What would be okay? So, in what I'm thinking could be theoretically possible is employers are paying in gold, employees are then spending their gold. That would be the transition. So when me and you were kids, right, we wouldn't operate in gold, or our parents wouldn't operate in gold because it was too cumbersome. But if gold can be on your why is this going off? If gold can be on your debit card or on your phone or on your PayPal, that seems to be the game changer because it does have. If you want to go get the gold, you can get the gold and then melt it down or whatever. But if you want to transact on it, it's there, and it's something that's more widely adopted globally speaking. So I'm not saying that's where we're going. I'm saying that kind of stuff interests me to follow. That's what I would say.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going. No, I mean, I think that's interesting, and I think I was trying to look it up as you were talking here. I believe that there is, so there's something called VeraCash, VERA cash, that uses. They basically, they have it's a debit card that's backed by precious metal deposits, and so I think you're seeing some of that. I wonder what it would take to have sort of, to your point, going back to the Bitcoin or crypto. I wonder what it would take to really actually have mass adoption of, because that's the other thing you have to think about is in the context of the resource. So money is freely available as long as you have the means for it, because it's printed on paper and they printed it. These days they print a lot of it. With crypto, you have access to it through platforms, etc., and there's sort of the ease of acquisition as long as you have the money. With gold, if you're actually to move into an environment where gold became more transactional, the commodity itself would become rare enough that it may become untenable to maintain that transactional utility, right? And so if that's the case, again, are you actually going to transact in gold as opposed to you're using it as a store of value? Or when I think of a safe haven asset, I think axiomatically sort of counter to transactional currency. A safe haven asset is one that I believe that I can hold and retain for. I mean, I guess if you get to the point where you have to use it, that's why it's there. But it's not something that you're acquiring in order to transact on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree that most people think of it the way that you do. I don't disagree with that, and I'm not saying that there's anything particularly wrong with that. However, when I hear Ben Shapiro or whomever it is say, "Hey, it's time to get your portfolio, diversified. Go ahead and put 10 to 15% gold." It's like, well, or precious metals. Like, okay, what good is that going to do me? I'm going to hold 10% of my value in gold. Gold would have to go up exponentially if hyperinflation hits for it to matter. So 10% of your net worth in gold or silver, unless it goes through the roof, if you have hyperinflation, it doesn't do anything for you. So for me, the safe haven argument, I get it, but it's like, well, like you have to have substantial amount in gold for that to matter. Now, the counter to that, and this wouldn't be considered necessarily a safe haven in the same way, but if you said you're going to buy a rental property that's going to throw off cash every month, that's a far better safe haven, in my opinion, than your gold is, because there's ways to protect your money. Anyways, it's more risky, but you can actually earn stuff off of it. Go ahead.
Well, by definition, then it's not a safe haven asset, right? I mean, safe haven asset.
I know, but I don't like. I agree the way that people. I agree that the definition is what you're using it as. I'm not disputing that. I just don't like that. I don't think of it that way. To me, it's like a no haven asset. Like you buy the gold and it sits there. Okay.
So going back to what we were talking about a little earlier in terms of a social construct, I mean, when looking at fiat currency, I mean, it seems to be at this point the only reason that it's used at the level that it is, and the only reason that's assigned the value that it is because the masses have decided that that's the case. I mean, so it's the currency used simply because it's what's out there. That's aggressive.
No, it's
wrong.
It's actually accurate.
I mean, yeah. Well, no, I meant fiat in general. I wasn't talking about the dollar.
Oh, sorry.
But also, you're not wrong, as they say. Just don't forget, Ryan, that when water rises, there's stuff there. Just to throw that out there. For anybody not in on that joke, go back like 4 episodes or something like that. So I mean, no, I guess it's an interesting thought experiment, like I was saying before. I mean, so if you reach the point where the U.S. dollar has lost that seat and is no longer looked at as that sort of ubiquitous go-to, what is the answer? I mean, I don't like I said, I don't think it's crypto, but
okay, yeah. So let's unpack that real quick. Let's see if we agree on what would have to happen for that to for the dollar.
I'm sure we don't agree, but go ahead.
No, you're right. We might not. That's why I wanted to go through it. So the first thing that if you have consumers who lose value in the dollar, then I suspect the U.S. government would counter by making sure there are measures that that put pressure on people to use dollars. Pay your tax in dollar. You gotta so you got to pay sales tax in dollar. Like put it down to where basically the end user has to use the dollar. So they would push back that way. The second thing to consider is, since the dollar is the reserve currency, most of the U.S. allies want the dollar to stay the reserve currency, which means they want the dollar to stay propped up. And so it's not just the U.S. here who's in on this game. It's the U.S. and all of its allies who are benefiting from the U.S. being the reserve currency. So if you said that you're going to leave the dollar, gold to me seems to be the next viable asset because you can get in and out a little bit easier. I think the crypto possibly, maybe not. I don't think gold is viewed maybe as big of a threat as crypto is, but I don't know where you go, because if you go to another currency like the digital yuan or some other currency, that is a direct threat on the sovereignty of the U.S. And I don't think I think they would do everything in their power to stop that. I don't think it can't happen. I just think so that's kind of how I think about those steps. And so I think we're a long way off from that.
I don't know if you noticed, but I looked at the date today, and like usually, so yesterday was Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. I don't know if you noticed. Did you see that today the clock turned to Thursday, July 29th, 1984? Is it too early to make those jokes? Is that too on the nose? Is that too much?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'm just here so we don't have another YouTube video taken down.
No. Actually, you being here, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't let the facts. And it's even below you, by the way. It's in 2 places.
I'm sorry.
Just for anybody listening, by the way, real quick, I'll give a quick plug. If you want to call in, have a part in this conversation, tell Ryan why he's wrong and why I'm right. 817-601-7031. Thought that was a beep. Somebody calling in.
That was a Weeble letting me know if I refer a friend, I can get up to $1,200 by referring a friend and opening a brokerage account now. So
you want to plug your coupon code?
I don't know what it is. And then I go to log in. It says your login has expired. Please log in again.
Nice. If anybody's looking for Ryan's Weeble coupon code, call me. I've got it. I'll give it to you.
Oh, so what do you think? How do you see the possibility for the dollar? Listen, there's paths for the dollar to lose its place. I'm not to deny that would be stupid, but what's the most likely path in your estimation?
It's a good question. I mean, you and I have talked about that a bunch on air, I think. I mean, so, I think that you and I agree to an extent that China's, goal really is to increase the wealth and power sort of within their own borders and increase their world seat. But I don't think that they have any real designs on, going and conquering new territory or going and, forcing the Chinese way of life down the throats of outsiders, etc. I don't think that's really their game. Similar to, with Russia. I mean, Russia talks a lot and they make a bunch of noise, but Russia is like a bigger North Korea. I mean, they're lost in their own whatever, and I don't see them as a true threat to making any of these real end runs. And so if those aren't in the play, then then is next like a Germany. And to your point, Germany is so tied to the US dollar that they're not making an end run. And so
Right.
once you actually unpack it on a practical level, I think you sort of lead or you land where you and I have talked about before, and you just said just a few minutes ago that the U.S. dollar is so integrated within the global economy that you're sort of talking about, I won't say world destruction, but certainly world economic upheaval if the U.S. dollar really takes a nosedive. But at the same time, like we talked about this morning a little bit. Inflation is inflation is inflation. It's an economic principle that it's not as though, I mean, how many times, the world over have we seen inflation just absolutely wreak havoc? And it's not as though back in those times, those governments, wanted it to happen or like, oh, okay, I guess it's time to, destroy our, everything we've built. I mean, it comes and it hits, and to a degree, it's not something you can ignore or protect against, especially when you put $9 trillion in liquidity into the market with no real way or no actionable steps on how to reverse that. And then you have the Fed chair come out today and talk about transitory inflation is actually not transitory inflation at all, and that's inflation that's going to stay. And so you keep walking this path, and it turns into a plank that you're walking into the ocean, right? I mean, this is
Yeah, there's a great quote from Hemingway, I guess. I think is who it was from. And it says one of his characters is asking another character, he goes, "How'd you go broke?" And he goes, "Gradually, then suddenly." And that's how the US dollar will eventually collapse. It just like right now we're sitting here going, "Oh, it's gotta happen, it's gotta happen, it's gotta happen," and it won't happen, it won't happen. And then one day you wake up like, "Oh my gracious, there it is. It happened." So the dollar cannot be the reserve currency for the rest of mankind. It won't be. So
when are you launching the talking head coin?
how does one how do you make money by launching your own coin? Because if I thought there was a way to do that, I'd probably look into it. I mean, what I need on my resume is another failed business idea. So I'm looking for more of those. What just happened?
You don't have enough?
No, well, I got one bag. I want to
No,
start two.
I grabbed this thing because the answer to your question is the first step in creating a currency is you got to find a mascot. So this is the face of the new currency, because you don't want your face on it, right?
Obviously not. The head's too big to fit on the coin.
I wasn't going to say it, but thank you. That's accurate. So this thing can help you right here.
Okay. So how do I make money on the coin though? Like, how does that happen?
Oh, you con people into thinking it's worth something, like Doge.
So I just own a certain percentage of it. It goes up in value, then I dump it, pump and dump.
Yeah, no, you start it. You message Elon and say, "Hey, Elon, I have the ESG cure to the world," and tell him to tweet about it. And then you pay him 20% of the profit, and then you take the 80, and then you start rework, and then you get asked to leave for $1 billion. And then you start Robinhood and you steal from your customers and you give all the money to the big guys while telling the small guy that you're protecting them. And then you go public. Like, I just gave you the keys, Ryan. There you go.
It feels like
if anybody listening to that, by the way, followed that, kudos, because I kind of lost myself there. But
no, I kept up with everything. Sadly, it felt like there's a few years behind jail baked into that somewhere. Okay, speaking of Robinhood, it opened up.
You're clearly going to get Martha Stewarted, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, if I get Martha Stewarted, that's the least of my concerns. Like, that's a nice jail. You get some rec time.
Oh no, it's sorry, it's the HBO Oz version of Martha Stewart. Sorry.
Oh, I'm getting the wired. I'm getting wired. I'm getting McNulty coming on me. Okay. Okay. That's what I want. That's what I need. McNulty right after me. Okay. Speaking of Robinhood, have you checked their price, their after-hour price?
No, so what is it looking at?
It's trading right now at $34.69. So
what did it open at?
38. 38.
Okay, so it came down. What was that?
Almost $4.
Wow, that's big. I mean, it came down 12%. I mean, that's.
Someone this
that's
morning might have suggested that was possible, but no. So, someone. We'll see.
Do you want to sound on him?
No.
I feel like we've got a lot of lurkers today because there's quite a few people watching this thing, but we haven't had any comments. If you're waiting,
the destruction of the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, no. What I was going to say is, if you're waiting, just like figure out how to nicely tell Ryan that he's wrong. Don't worry about that. Just fire away.
Yeah, just please, just do like Ben does. Just start off by saying you're wrong.
So hey, Ryan has called me on this habit before.
Sorry.
Do what?
Never mind. Go ahead.
Ryan has called me on this habit before, and to a degree. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say to a degree that he has a point, but that's probably not fair. There are times where Ryan will put something out there. He has an idea. Let's just call it an idea. And generally, they're
terrible.
It will leave something to be desired, and so I try to gently tell him that, and then I go in the lab and for a few weeks and like actually make the idea like better and make it sound good. And I come back to him and I'm like, hey, I know you said this thing, but I've really put some thought into it. And now I think this thing over here, and usually he takes like the credit for the second iteration of the idea. So if you have a friend like that in your life, just know that is incredibly valuable, and I appreciate Ryan for that, I guess. You shook your head. Is that not how that goes? Do you want to comment on it?
I just want to put a little meat on that bone, right? Like that's a very small wing chicken bone there. I want a full drumstick on this thing. Like in a hypothetical world, going full screen. In a hypothetical world, an idea might be like, hey, let's start a fund and do this, this, and this. And then, again, just making up something off the top of my head. After getting droned for, months, bringing it up 3-4 times after that and getting just drilled, why it's a terrible idea. Out of the blue, someone might come back to you and say, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we, start a fund? It's like, you mean what I was talking about last year? Well, not exactly the same thing. What we're going to do is, and then list off everything that you said you want to do and like add one thing for like a bonus. It's like the free bonus at the bottom, it's like the 10 things plus one. It's like, oh, we're going to put a sign on the front door. You want a sign above the door. We want it on the door. It's like, oh, okay. Well, yes, you've really reshaped this thing. And then walk around beating your chest, be like, ah, yeah.
It's okay. So I followed you to the last part because the caveat being that like instead of like, oh, you need to put the sign on the top of the door, it's more like, okay, you were talking about building a boat, but I'd rather build a submarine. And by the way, it's not going to have any doors. It's but whatever.
What? Why? Why are you? What are you doing here?
Little column A, little column B, whatever.
Back to the fiat. Why do you hate gold? Or Peter Schiff? Either one.
There's a Jewish / South Park Cartman joke in there somewhere. I'm not gonna go there, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I have no idea. So
no, you don't want South Park?
I know. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Like that's about it. And then when I got detained in China, someone sent me the South Park clip of their characters getting detained in China, and so that's kind of it.
For those listening, that's actually not hyperbole. That's not a euphemism. If you haven't listened to that story, go back to Bring in the Closers because that is a story. The detention in China that happened.
Don't bring up when it was. Don't bring up the time period.
Oh, I'm definitely not going to.
Someone literally today, you'll get a kick out of this. Someone literally today, a mutual friend of ours, since we only have one of those, it's pretty easy to tell you who that is.
I already know who it is. Yep.
Yeah. Reminded me that I was responsible. Wait. This is so backwards, it's hard to do. There you go. Responsible for some of the events of last year. So we'll leave it there.
Some?
Most.
Thank you.
Most. Yeah. So why do you hate gold and Peter Schiff? You've never answered that question.
Well, I punted the question because I don't agree with the phrasing of the question.
Of course you don't. That's why
I know. No, I know. We've talked about Schiff enough. Do I need to give him more airtime on this podcast? Unbelievable. That guy is a clown. I mean, he's the second coming of Bill Ackman. He's John McAfee.
Okay, that's too
much.
Listen.
What?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that he was John McAfee 1.0, but that was a little aggressive. So, but we're actually 1.2. It wouldn't be 1.0. But why did you cut the feed? What happened here? All I do is try to go to a link, and he cuts the feed on me. Was that much? Was that the one that was out of pocket? What happened here?
I was letting you go. You're on your Peter Schiff rant. I wanted you to have the floor.
I don't have anything really all that grandiose to say about Peter Schiff. He's the classic. I mean, he comes at Bitcoin with the. So here's my view on Peter Schiff. He actually is very like John McAfee, but he's a foil to it in the sense that I think Peter is an incredibly intelligent human. I think he understands economic policy and understands monetary policy very, very well. Against that backdrop, he is one of the most fervent detractors from and bears on Bitcoin, but for all of the reasons that have been thoroughly debunked or are patently false, he doesn't have anything really to grasp onto other than just the same talking points that we've heard. And so do I think he's a total shill, and do I think he's sold out for some aim? Yes. Do I sitting here today, could I tell you what the goal is? No, which is why I'm so lost in like how you get to that point. Because I mean, like I said, he's not just like a talking head, sorry for the pun, but and talking about these things and doesn't have like a clue about like other. He's a real sharp person. And so I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't know. So
as a talking head, there was a few shots that might have been directed at me, and so I need to just unpack this. First off, you made it very clear that he's not just a talking head; he's a sharp person. So, are you insinuating that talking heads, generally speaking, are not sharp people?
As a broad brushstroke, am I insinuating that talking heads are not intelligent? Yes, absolutely. There are certainly caveats to that rule. I happen to be good friends with good friends with and co-host of one of these exceptions. Is it this one? This one. There it is.
Yeah, it's so crazy, isn't it? It's like, oh, there it is.
I don't know. No, but I happen to be good friends with one of them, so I see it firsthand. But no, I mean, by and large, look, if you're trying to equate yourself to like a Skip Bayless or a Stephen A. Smith, you may want to get a different profession. I don't know.
Wait.
They're talking heads and they're aggressively stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, okay, they're making like $10 million a year. I'm not sure who's stupid here.
The one that's doing it for free. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting $10 million a year. I'm sitting in my home office for free.
So I know it's the wrong poster, but I would just like to point out again that the talking head has been using a poster for one of the podcasts now that has the Fiverr logo like right on it, just to throw that out there. Yeah. So you can't see that.
I am not using that. The junior
it got through the editing department. That's all I'll say.
Okay. The shows that I produce, it's not on those, but whatever. It's neither here nor there. Do we actually own the rights to that logo?
I don't know. Don't ask questions like that.
The second thing I was going to ask is,
I don't see that's important at all.
yeah, I can't imagine cease and desist letters or anything like that. No, can't imagine why that'd be important. The second thing I was going to ask is, you mentioned that Peter Schiff potentially is a shield for something. A, it's gold. Like I told you that. B, how does one become a shield to get paid? Asking for a friend. Just asking, just randomly for a friend. No one.
Ask a friend that's done that before. I don't know. I chose to be the apprentice of the guy that doesn't get paid. So what do you think I'm getting paid?
Yeah, what does that say about you? Like, what does that say about your intelligence?
Yeah, not much. Not very many good things. I'll tell you that much.
We went from railing on the mainstream media to like gonna need some therapy now.
What just happened?
I don't know. What are we doing? What's wrong with this?
For some reason, when you were talking a few minutes ago, without really thinking about it, I Googled China Detention Center. That this podcast is definitely getting recorded at this by the wrong parties. This is going off the rails.
Okay, Tom. Speaking of China, can we get Robert Hefner to come on the show?
Let's get on the show right now.
Bring him on.
Well, I could reach out. Let's see. What? So when was? Did you guys? I know you guys talked on Inside the War Room. Has he come back on one of the shows, or is that the last interaction?
That's the last interaction. I can call him right now and bring him on the show. Let's see here. If you give about there. This is great. We're both texting him. Let me text him so I can call him if he responds.
Yeah, you go. I mean, he'll probably respond to you and not me, or vice versa. One of those. But I didn't text him. What's that? What's going on? Huh?
Back to China.
Anyways, speaking of which, I saw that you and Mark had a show for the first time in I think a little while. Is Feed the Dragon still on hiatus?
Yeah, that's out of my hands, so it's on hiatus for now. It's on hiatus, so I don't know. But I didn't tell you about this. I might be appearing in a publication that you have heard of.
Want to be a little bit more specific?
No, I don't.
Okay, so watch out for Ryan on America's Most Wanted. I guess. I don't really know. Maybe they're filming the new series season of Cops in Granbury. I don't know.
Oh, gracious.
Maybe he's taking the speechwriter's job of whoever's writing the speeches for Marjorie Green Taylor and Zach, or Matt Gaetz. I mean, I don't know. There's lots of different ways you can go with that one. That would be an aggressive job, by the way. I wouldn't want that job.
Wow. Like that last one.
The last one was too far. I was trying to.
You just kept going. I thought you were like Joe Biden's or Jen Plasky or whatever her name is. I thought that's where you're going. Like you just totally detoured and went Matt Gaetz. Wow.
I mean,
wow. Why do you hate Trump so bad?
Are we back on this again? This is Groundhog's Day. What the hell? What is going on here?
Listen, you called me Matt Gaetz' speechwriter. I've got to come back with something, okay?
I just postulated. It was just a question. I wasn't insinuating anything. The fact that you took it, internally, I wonder how Joe Exotic's doing. I think we need to get him on the podcast.
Carol Baskin. Okay, Carol's got to come on.
Can we reach out, please?
I mean, we could. You won't, so I will.
I'm glad we understand what "we" means. I don't understand why you had to explain that, but thank you. Yes.
Hey, if I reach out, does this logo have Fiverr in it too? So when she sees, she'll know we're frauds, or is this one actually done right?
I don't know. It's one of the two. Unclear.
Oh, gracious. Ben. So how was your day? I'm curious. I know you had some big meetings. How'd they go?
Wow. That's aggressive. So what I'll say to that, and I'm not even going to punt that one, right? Because I'm in a little bit of a feisty mood. I'm not even going to punt for you. I'll give you. I had multiple. However, what I will say is that meeting people face to face is important for getting deals done. We all know this. Okay, it's important to get that face to face time and that trust factor. Key to that though is showing up and being there and sitting down. But less facetiously, what I will say is, and this is actually somewhat serious, going back to the bring in the closers mantra, just make sure that if you set something up with somebody and something goes awry and aren't able to follow up, that you give that person, the courtesy of some notice and let them readjust their day depending on what because things happen, right? Like everybody's human, things happen, things come up, but there's a right way and a wrong way to handle things. And that's all I'll say about that. So I didn't punt the question. You're welcome. Luckily, only like one person would understand what I'm talking about if they were to hear this, and hopefully that doesn't happen. Unless Ryan's going to send them unless Ryan's going to send them the audio after this podcast, which also may happen.
No, I won't get the audio for this podcast from you from like 3 weeks. I'll barely upload it to the podcast app by that time. So no, they're pretty safe. If they didn't watch this live recording, it's pretty much done. So they either saw that or they didn't.
So when are you going fishing next,
dude?
Oh, actually, let me rephrase. When is someone going to pay for you to go fishing next?
I don't know. I was hoping that you would pay for me to go, but you won't.
Well, even if I offered, you wouldn't go with me.
I'm going to Biloxi. Are you going to Biloxi? I say I'm okay. Time.
What?
Rewind
What's
the tape.
happening?
I might be going to Biloxi.
Biloxi, Mississippi?
Yes.
On purpose?
Wow. Yes.
Like intentionally? Like not against your will? Interesting. Okay, why? Why would you go to Biloxi, Mississippi?
Championship.
And they picked Biloxi, Mississippi? Can they come to Midland next time?
There was a time when I was working with them about coming to Texas, but Texas hadn't approved it yet. So, however,
so are you on the card or?
No. Why are you the way that you are? Why can't I
get on? Can we get on the card? Can it be you versus me?
I'd pay to be on the card for that. I would pay.
I would too.
Okay. Let me tell you something. I will pay Dave Feldman. David Feldman is the CEO. I've got his number. I actually talked to the man. I will pay you, Dave. You tell me. I will pay to be on the card to bare knuckle box Ben Samuels. Hey, done. I'll fly myself in. I'll get my own robe. I'll bring my own tape to wrap my wrist. Look, I'll pay for the music rights to my song. I will do the whole thing. I'll buy tickets, tables. I'll show up, baby. I will pay you to let me fight Ben Samuels.
Shots fired. How's the wingspan? I feel like that's really like the only shot I've got. I wonder.
I used to box a little in high school, right?
Oh yeah, no, believe me. I feel like I know exactly how that would go, and it wouldn't be in my favor. I probably wouldn't get like Nate Robinson, but it wouldn't be pretty.
Here's the thing, in all honesty. If you can last longer than like the first 2 minutes, you're probably good because I'll be able to going, okay.
Oh, clearly I'm gonna rock you, like dance around you for at least the first round. Oh, no question. No question. And if it's in May, you only have a few months to get ready. So I mean, actually no, May is that's almost a year. Hold on, wait a second.
Why May? Why are you picking May all of a sudden?
Didn't you say May? Didn't you say May 20th?
August 20th. 3 weeks.
Oh, I thought you said May. Oh, but August 20th. Oh yeah, no. Let's go. Rip it. Let's go.
I'm going.
I can. No, me and you. Get us on the card. Let's go.
Oh, get us on the card. What's your walking weight right now?
Like 190.
Yeah, I don't think I can make 205. If you can make 206, we could fight at heavyweight.
I could probably actually between now and August 20th, I could definitely put on 15 pounds.
I cut down to 265.
I would just need to eat a lot more Burger King.
I have a call with the man on Monday. Don't be tempted me because I will tell him. I will tell him that me and you are ready to go. I will tell him.
Last time you threatened to take take a trip with me, we weren't allowed to fly on planes, so I'm not really I'm not exactly scared of what's going to happen here. But go ahead.
We have quotes that, out of context, can and will be used against us in court. Like the prosecutor will play that clip, and because neither one of us are going to clarify why you said that, that's going to be played at a trial somewhere in the future.
That's going to be opening credits to the 60 for 60. What do you mean? So I don't think it's for this one, but on the calendar for our morning show, so it could say like Mornings Off the Rails podcast, or it could say any number of things. But what the calendar invite actually says is, I don't even know why we're doing this. ... And I feel like
that's accurate.
I feel like that's a little too accurate. I may have to change that to something else.
It's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. So, are you coming down to Biloxi? You asked the next time I'm going fishing. I might go when I'm in Biloxi. That's what I was trying to get to.
But I mean, like, you might go, or we're definitely going. I'm not. Yeah.
I would say over 50% chance right now, but I'll know for sure on Monday.
All right, so I'm probably in the same range. Let's talk about it. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do a podcast from there. Maybe we can sit up in a booth and have our own live broadcast of the commentary of the fight from the arena.
I'm sure I can get his media passes.
Well, I mean, as long as it's not a hard energy conference, then you're good to go. Too soon?
No, that's appropriate. That's appropriate. Hard energy. I don't know. What is their deal? Like, what?
I don't think they like media because they're sort of the media. Like, they want to be the media company, right? And so big bad war room media coming in trying to
war room media.
I mean,
if Hard Energy knew how little I cared about competing with them, if they only knew.
War room media is basically like Breitbart 2.0. So
I was hoping for zero hedge, but whatever.
No, you still have a Twitter account. No, you're still on Twitter. Maybe not for long, but for now.
Oh, I love Twitter, but it is the biggest pain in the world. Okay, no. Sorry. It's the easiest to use. It might be the hardest to actually grow any kind of following on. LinkedIn's is right there behind it, though. LinkedIn's is so clunky. I hate LinkedIn. Hate it.
Yeah, no, LinkedIn is painful, but and especially since they're owned by Microsoft, so they could make the product about as good as they possibly wanted.
Yeah, they peaked. Obviously, for them, this is impressive. Like, let's make no mistake about it. Like, for Microsoft, like, of all the Microsoft, like, other than like Word and Excel that made PowerPoint, like, outside.
So why don't you tell us about your Outlook experience, Ryan? How was the foray into Microsoft Outlook? How long did that last?
If I said a month, that would be a lie. By about 2 weeks. It was at first fantastic. It's like okay. In high school, you had that girl in the corner, and you didn't really know her. She's kind of cute, and she didn't really date people, but you're like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. You go up to her, you ask her out on a date, kind of goes well. Second date kind of goes well. And then you realize about 3 to 4 dates in why she was by herself. I mean, cute girl, but never had a boyfriend. Like, you realize what everyone else already knew.
So you just described Midland. Keep going.
That was me with Outlook. I thanked you for recommending it to me. I was all in. I was excited. And then
I wouldn't go as far as to. I wouldn't go all the way to recommend. I don't know about recommend.
Well,
you have heard me complain about LinkedIn incessantly for like the last 2 years straight. If you've been paying attention, so I don't know if I'd go to recommend. Yeah, I know. I know.
You recommended it. Okay, you sent me your discount code. It was a whole thing. All right, and so I went in thinking, okay, here I'm going to get my buddy $100 on a referral fee, whatever. And yeah, that lasted literally, I think If did the last 2 weeks been maybe 3 most?
I don't even think it was that. I think it was less than 2.
Yeah, it wasn't long. What a disaster of a software. What an absolute train wreck. Hello. Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa. Don't put that on the screen.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's a little.
That's on your page.
So, the British are into some tea time. It looks like. Oh wow, that's
for those who are watching on either War Room Media or WIFFM 107.5 for The Rock. One of those two just got a very aggressive spam bot blast of messages you can't see and we will not be showing. Unbelievable. What did you do? What did you do?
That one actually, I'm not even sure what just happened.
Yeah, I think that's on yours. That's hilarious. It's not on mine, I don't think.
Wow, that's aggressive. Okay, well,
what kind of content you putting out when I'm not on, man? Good night.
I mean, this only happens when we're on air together, so.
Yeah. Sure. I bet it never happens when I'm not around. I mean, the shows don't call don't let the phone.
I like how one of the options on the moderator is put user in timeout. I like that. That's awesome.
Hey, Britt, you're going to timeout. You've been a bad boy.
Go sit in the corner. Think
about your comments, what you said. Why was it appropriate?
Put the dunce cap on first. Make sure people can. Oh my word, that's aggressive.
Oh, it's on yours.
Yeah, it is.
Did you buy someone's YouTube channel? That's twice now. We've got
this one started organically from 0, and I think I have 8 currently. So no, sir.
Wow.
All right, let's keep moving. Since we're not going to show the comment, let's keep moving. So
if we had real comments, people, we wouldn't be distracted by this nonsense. So I'm blaming you. You. Give me something to talk about.
So, how do you feel about the euro?
It's trash. Next.
End scene. That's all I have.
I don't know. I don't care anything about the euro. The euro is irrelevant. Europe is irrelevant. Can I just say that? Europe is irrelevant.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about something a little bit.
Hold on. I just said Europe's irrelevant, and you didn't even respond.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, okay.
Cosign.
What do you want from me? Oh.
I thought you would have a little bit more pushback as you're a pro-European, always talking about France and your love for Eastern European literature and stuff. I didn't know.
God, I love the fact that at this point I can just say, check the tapes, and we just know that that's factually inaccurate. So we're going to keep going.
I love how you try to correct me on this show. It's just it makes my day.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here so I don't get fined and so I make your day.
Okay.
So I don't remember what I was going to talk about. What was I going?
I was talking about how I think Europe's irrelevant. They're a relic of the past. They're no longer viable. We shouldn't pay any attention. They're a puppet of China. I mean, I can keep going.
Yeah, I don't understand why you expect me to punch back at any of that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just I
mean, with the minor caveat that you may pull Germany out of that conversation, but the rest of them,
Germany's the worst. Germany's the worst.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, yes, and they have a checkered history. But what do you mean?
Okay, yeah. So the Russians hire former German politicians to go work for their oil and gas companies so they get their pipelines like Nord Stream 2 to connect. They're the worst.
Okay, sure. Then they're all trash. Let's go with that. Why not? I mean, okay, that's fine.
I didn't say they're trash. I said they're irrelevant.
I mean, the Jews trying to throw Germany a bone and says no. Okay, let's keep going. So let's just move on. Let's just move on.
I don't know.
we throwing Canada and Mexico into the European bucket, or are they like other?
First off, I don't think Europe is trash. I think they're a relic of the past and they're irrelevant. You think they're trash, but whatever.
You clearly said the word trash at least twice. So
okay, oh,
God, I really hope that there's no one listening to this show for the first time, because
gracious.
Actually, this is kind of what it's like every week. Never mind, I take that back.
You think, okay, we've probably gone as far as we're gonna push the envelope this week. We go somewhere else, and then it's like a squall in the middle of the ocean. It just comes out of nowhere, and then whoosh, the ship's rocking. There's water coming on board, and you're just holding on for dear life.
I'd also like to point out that, but apparently we are competing directly with. Can you see this? Directly with Joe. Mr. Biden is on air right now with a live broadcast, so hopefully we're beating his numbers. We got to be, at least, if nothing else, Ryan, we got to be more entertaining than what's ever going on over there, right?
I had a guy the other day tell me about a show he had, and it did go really well. And he said that he was asking his buddy about how the show went because his buddy's watching to support him. And his buddy said that he got distracted watching paint dry while this guy's show was on. So that
okay. Okay.
I think you can say that of every Joe Biden press conference. That's where I was going with that.
I'm sorry, what? No, so are you saying that, like, if he's giving a press conference next time, they should, like, paint the wall behind him before he goes so you can, like, watch it dry?
You gotta stare at it. You can't tell. I mean, I'm curious, like, if you're a Democrat right now and you voted for Joe, are you happy with yourself?
So going back to something I said earlier today, so stepping aside from, and follow me here, okay? So stepping aside from the social moves that they've made in terms of, stepping aside from the moves that they've made on, like, the ESG and energy and those sort of policy decisions, if you look at the same bellwethers that the Trump presidency pointed at, and that's jobs, that's that's growth in the economy, that's stock market price. If you're looking at the same bellwethers, he's doing fantastically, and he's doing arguably substantively better than Donald. Okay, so if you look at it through the same prism, then you have to sort of give Joe an immense amount of credit because he has taken what Trump did and has extended that aggressively, and there's been a lot of upward mobility. Now, when you actually look at it from a full picture, at an apples to apples with the other things that he's done, it paints a very dystopian picture. And so one of the things that you and I talked about when Trump was president is that, if you focus on, like, if your metric for how well the president is doing is the price of the Dow Jones Industrial, then Trump was a fantastic president. And, there's not much to say. If you look at the way that he got there and the way that he, chose to play the geopolitical and et cetera, it starts to, peel away the onion really quickly. And so, I don't know. How are we judging him? Are we judging him apples to apples, or are we judging him based on how it, quote unquote, should be? And you shook your head at me. What part of that did you not agree with?
Well, okay. So the inflation metric, I think, under Biden depends on who you blame for that, and that's kind of Donald obviously has to take a lot of blame for that, despite what his supporters would tell you. So I don't know. I don't think the country, his thing was he was coming to restore the soul of the country, and I don't see how he's done that at all. That seems to be a pretty much a failure, which everyone with a functioning brain should have known that was not going to work, especially the way he ran his campaign. I mean, he didn't run his campaign. Okay, he didn't campaign the way that he pretended to campaign. The ads that were printed in his name, I should say, that would be a no shot. But I don't know. I have been, and you know this, pretty much on the I think he's an old man who's tired, not the dementia camp. Like that's not really been my angle from last year, and I still think that's probably the case. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. But he's so underwhelming, and it's hard to imagine that people are excited about him as their president. You're muted.
How do we get to a place where the liveliness or like the veracity in how a message is delivered is like the metric that we now judge a president on? I mean, so like said another way, and I don't think this is what you're saying, but sort of what you're painting or alluding to is that it would be impractical for a quiet, confident, reserved, intelligent, articulate man to run this country well. I don't buy that at all. I don't think you need to be boisterous or loud or gregarious, or I don't think you need to.
None of those things that you just, he's none of those things that you just pointed out. He's not the quiet, super intelligent type. You know, that's not him. He's just underwhelming. He doesn't come across as intelligent. He doesn't come across as confident. He comes across as this Joe Biden.
I guess my pushback to that is that, and so I don't necessarily disagree, but you know, if you can, and not you, but if people can look at the things that Donald Trump says, the things that Donald Trump does, and the decisions that he makes, and his explanation of how he comes to those decisions, and with that fact pattern, you can get to the conclusion that he is a sharp, intellectual, you know, savvy businessman. I think it's even easier to look at what Joe Biden says and make the leap to, you know, at least that he is competent and with it much, you know, I don't know if you can get to like intelligent, because a lot of things that he says are patently stupid, but that's a different conversation. Right. And so again, going back to like, if you're comparing these two, if you listen to what Donald says and how he says it, and you're like, oh, that guy's sharp, that guy's smart, I don't think you can turn around and listen to what Joe says and be like, oh, well, that, you know, he's clearly an idiot. Because I mean, the message is different, but they're both not what, I don't know. I mean,
when they both open their mouths, words come out.
Rip it. Music. Let's go. Nothing needs to be said. That's it. Ryan, it's been a good week. This is the last show of the week. I know we've got. Well, some of us are only the apprentice to the talking head, not the talking head. So we have a lighter schedule. But so I'm gonna let you plug in a minute. But you and I will be back on air Monday. Mornings off the rails, 8:30 a.m. It's going to be a good one after the long weekend. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of us to talk about. Maybe we'll get into some Robinhood updates, maybe something else. But we will be back in the mornings. And then I believe in 2 weeks from now, we are going to be launching, or I should say I'm going to be launching the Y Drive podcast officially. Will be the first show. So Ryan May.
I am 107.5 The Rock. I'm sorry. When you say that, I just have to. It's like just pause. I've got to interject it. Continue. Y Drive podcast by Bit. Go ahead. Sorry. It's like a reflex. I apologize.
We're date and time to be announced. Watch out for those details on the LinkedIn page. And with that, Ryan, where can people find you? What are you up to? What does your schedule look like for the next few days?
Inside the War Room, as always. I got a podcast dropping tomorrow. I do have a question for you before we go. Is Soronovich, is he back?
I don't know who that is.